How the CPU executes an instruction: fetch, decode, execute explained. Welcome to Gate in Kernel. Every program eventually becomes a sequence of instructions that the CPU must execute. A line of C such as C equals A plus B looks simple to a programmer. But the processor does not understand C directly. After compilation, that code becomes machine instructions such as add $T0, $T1, $T2, or an equivalent instruction on another processor architecture. The CPU then has to fetch the instruction, understand what it means, read the required data, perform the operation, and store the result. At a high level, we usually describe this process as fetch, decode, execute. But inside a real CPU, several additional steps are involved. Understanding this instruction cycle is one of the best ways to see how software becomes real hardware activity. 1. A program is a sequence of instructions. When a program runs, its machine code is stored in memory. The CPU sees that program as a sequence of instructions. Each instruction tells the processor to perform a specific operation. It may add or subtract values, load data from memory, store data into memory, compare two values, jump to another instruction, or call a function. The CPU repeatedly retrieves these instructions and executes them. This repeating process is called the instruction cycle. 2. The program counter tells the CPU where to look. Before the CPU can execute an instruction, it must know where that instruction is located. For this purpose, processors use a special register called the program counter, or PC. The program counter normally contains the address of the next instruction. For example, PC equals 0x1000. This means the next instruction is stored at memory address 0x1000. The CPU uses this address to fetch the instruction. After that, the program counter normally moves to the next instruction address. Conceptually, the path is simple: program counter, to instruction memory, to instruction. Without the program counter, the CPU would not know where it is inside the running program. 3. Stage 1. Fetch the instruction. The first major stage is fetch. The CPU takes the address stored in the program counter and sends it to the memory system. Memory returns the instruction stored at that address. In a simple model, the path looks like this: program counter, to memory, to instruction. Modern processors usually fetch instructions from an instruction cache instead of directly from main memory. But the basic idea is the same. The CPU uses an address to retrieve the instruction it needs to execute next. 4. The instruction enters the CPU. Once the instruction has been fetched, the CPU must hold it long enough to determine what it means. In simple processor diagrams, the instruction may be placed in an instruction register. Modern CPUs often use more complicated internal structures, but the principle is similar. The processor now has the binary instruction inside the CPU. That binary pattern may represent something like add R1, R2, R3. This means, take the value in R2. Take the value in R3. Add them together. Then store the result in R1. But the CPU still needs circuitry to recognize this meaning. That happens during the decode stage. 5. Stage 2. Decode the instruction. The second major stage is decode. A machine instruction contains different fields. These fields tell the processor what operation to perform and which data to use. Depending on the instruction set, the fields may identify the operation, source registers, destination register, immediate values, or memory addressing information. The field that identifies the operation is commonly called the opcode. For an ADD instruction, the opcode tells the CPU that addition is required. Other opcodes may represent subtraction, and, or, load, store, branch, or jump. The decoder examines the instruction bits and determines what the processor needs to do. 6. The control unit coordinates the operation. The CPU does not simply send the entire instruction into the ALU. Instead, decoding generates control signals. These signals coordinate different parts of the processor. The control logic may decide which registers should be read, which ALU operation should be performed, whether memory should be accessed, whether a result should be written to a register, and where the next instruction should come from. For an instruction such as add R1, R2, R3, the control signals are conceptually saying, read R2. Read R3. Tell the ALU to add. Write the result into R1. The control unit acts as the coordinator of the CPU datapath. 7. The CPU reads the source registers. Many instructions operate on values already stored in CPU registers. Suppose the processor executes add R1, R2, R3. The CPU needs the values stored in R2 and R3. Imagine that R2 equals 10. R3 equals 20. The register file reads both values and sends them toward the execution hardware. R2 becomes one ALU input. R3 becomes the other ALU input. The register names inside the instruction identify where the data is stored. The actual values inside those registers become the operands used by the ALU. 8. Stage 3. Execute the instruction. Now the CPU reaches the execute stage. For arithmetic and logical instructions, execution usually involves the ALU. ALU stands for Arithmetic Logic Unit. The ALU can perform addition, subtraction, logical operations, comparisons, and shifts. In our example, R2 equals 10. R3 equals 20. The control unit tells the ALU to perform addition. The ALU calculates 10 plus 20 equals 30. The result now exists inside the CPU. But the instruction is not finished yet. That result usually needs to be stored somewhere. 9. Not every instruction uses the ALU the same way. The execute stage does not always mean simple arithmetic. Different instructions use the CPU datapath in different ways. An arithmetic instruction may calculate A plus B. A comparison instruction may determine whether A is less than B. A memory instruction may use the ALU to calculate an address. For example, a load instruction might need data from the address, R2 plus 8. The ALU calculates that address. Then the CPU uses the result to access memory. So even instructions that do not look like arithmetic may still depend on the ALU. 10. Memory access for load and store instructions. Arithmetic instructions often work mainly with registers. But programs also need data stored in memory. This is why load and store instructions are important. A load instruction copies data from memory into a register. A store instruction copies data from a register into memory. For example, load R1, 8 of R2. Conceptually, the processor first calculates the address in R2 plus 8. Then it reads the data stored at that memory address. Finally, it places the data into R1. The path may look like this: register, to ALU, to memory address, to memory, and back to a register. This shows why executing an instruction can involve much more than just the ALU. 11. The write-back stage stores the result. After an operation is completed, the result often needs to return to the register file. This is called the write-back stage. Return to our ADD example. R2 equals 10. R3 equals 20. The ALU produces 30. The CPU then writes, R1 equals 30. The complete path is approximately, instruction. Decode. Read R2 and R3. Send the values to the ALU. Produce the result. Write the result into R1. At this point, the ADD instruction is complete. The value 30 can now be used by future instructions. 12. The program counter moves to the next instruction. While instructions are being executed, the processor must also determine what comes next. Normally, the program counter moves forward to the next instruction. But control flow instructions can change that behavior. Examples include branches, jumps, function calls, and returns. A branch may tell the processor to continue execution from another address if a condition is true. When that happens, the program counter is changed. This is how high-level structures such as loops, if statements, and function calls eventually work at the machine level. They all change which instruction the CPU executes next. 13. Fetch, decode, execute is really a larger cycle. The phrase fetch, decode, execute is useful because it captures the main idea. But a more complete simplified instruction cycle looks like this: fetch, decode, read registers, execute, access memory if necessary, write the result back. Not every instruction uses every stage. An ADD instruction usually does not need to access data memory.
A store instruction writes to memory and may not write a result back into a register. A branch instruction may mainly change the program counter.
The CPU datapath is shared hardware. Each instruction determines which parts of that hardware are needed. 14. One MIPS ADD instruction through the whole CPU.
Now consider the MIPS-style instruction, add $T0, $T1, $T2. Its meaning is, $T0 equals $T1 plus $T2.
We can now follow the complete instruction through the CPU.
First, the program counter identifies the instruction address.
The CPU fetches the instruction. The decoder recognizes it as an ADD instruction. The instruction identifies $T1 and $T2 as source registers.
The register file reads both values.
The control unit tells the ALU to perform addition. The ALU adds the two values.
The result moves through the write-back path.
Finally, the result is stored in $T0. So one short assembly instruction activates several hardware components.
The path is approximately program counter,
instruction memory,
decoder,
control logic,
register file,
ALU, write-back path, and back to the register file. This is the hardware meaning behind a single line of assembly language. 15. Modern CPUs execute instructions much faster. The basic instruction cycle is extremely useful for understanding a processor. But modern CPUs are much more sophisticated. They do not always wait for one instruction to completely finish before starting another.
Modern processors may use pipelining, multiple execution units, branch prediction, caches, superscalar execution, out-of-order execution, and register renaming.
With pipelining, several instructions can be in different stages at the same time. One instruction may be executing. Another may be decoding.
A third may already be fetching. So the simple fetch, decode, execute model is not a complete description of a modern high-performance CPU. But it is still the foundation. Advanced CPU designs are largely trying to make this basic process happen faster and more efficiently.
Conclusion: a CPU does not execute an entire program as one large operation. It executes instructions. Each instruction moves through an organized sequence of hardware activity.
The program counter identifies the next instruction.
The CPU fetches it. The decoder determines what it means.
The control unit activates the required data path.
Registers provide the operands. The ALU performs arithmetic or logical operations. Memory is accessed when necessary.
The result may then be written back into a register. Then the CPU continues with the next instruction. So the familiar phrase, fetch, decode, execute represents one of the most fundamental processes inside a computer. A simple instruction such as, add $T0, $T1, $T2 looks like a single operation in assembly language. Inside the processor, however, it becomes a coordinated flow through the program counter, instruction memory, decoder, control logic, register file, ALU, and write-back circuitry.
Once you understand this instruction cycle, the connection between software and hardware becomes much clearer. And that leads naturally to the next question: where do instructions and data come from, and how does the CPU communicate with memory? That will be our next topic: how the CPU talks to memory. Thanks for watching Gate and Kernel.
Here, we go beyond the code and look inside the computer, from software all the way down to the hardware.
See you in the next lesson.